What happens when one of Hollywood's most legendary actors is blindsided by a talk show host who just won't show an ounce of respect? You're about to witness one of the most uncomfortable and unforgettable moments ever broadcast on live TV. Harrison Ford, the icon behind Han Solo and Indiana Jones, walked onto The View expecting the usual promotional chat. Instead, he walked straight into a trap. But before we get into what really happened, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments. Was Joy Behar out of line? Or did Harrison finally say what needed to be said? The lights were bright, the set was humming, and Ford slid into his seat with the ease of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. Promote the movie. Smile. Nod. Get out. But this morning, this wasn't going to be routine. From the moment Joy Behar opened her mouth, it was clear she had something else in mind. Well, she smirked. Look who it is. Harrison Ford, the man who's made a career playing the same guy over and over again. The other hosts shifted in their seats. That line wasn't in the pre-show rundown. Off camera, Ford's publicist stiffened. She'd made it very clear, keep things light, keep it professional. Ford didn't flinch. His jaw tensed, but his voice was calm. I think you might be confusing me with someone else, Joy. I've played quite a range of characters. But Joy wasn't interested in hearing it. Oh, really? She leaned in. Let's review. The grumpy pilot in Star Wars. The grumpy archaeologist in Indiana Jones. The grumpy detective in Blade Runner. Bit of a theme. Don't you think? The audience went quiet. This wasn't playful banter anymore. This was a shot across the bow. Ford glanced toward the other hosts, silently pleading for someone to redirect. None of them moved. Joy, he said, voice sharp now. I came here to talk about my new film. Maybe we could focus on that instead of whatever this is. But Joy doubled down. Whatever this is, she said, eyes flashing. I'm just saying what everyone's been thinking. You've been coasting on the same handful of roles for decades. When was the last time you actually challenged yourself as an actor? The question wasn't just rude. It was personal, and Ford knew it. You know what? Joy, he said, his famously composed tone starting to crack. I've been doing this for over 50 years. I've worked with some of the greatest directors in film history. I've played everything from carpenters to presidents. And I've never once felt the need to justify my work to someone who makes a living gossiping on daytime television. Dead silence. The studio held its breath. Joy's face flushed, but instead of backing off, she escalated. Gossiping, she spat. You think that's what this is? I'm asking questions your fans deserve answers to. Or are you just too much of a prima donna to handle honest criticism? Ford stood. His chair scraped loudly against the floor, a sound that echoed like a gunshot. Honest criticism, he said, eyes locked on her. Is that what you call this ambush? I've faced critics with real insight. You're not even in their league. Sit down. Harrison, Joy snapped. You don't get to intimidate me just because you're a movie star. This is my show, and I'll ask whatever questions I damn well please. Ford's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. Your show is a joke. You spend your days tearing people down, people who create, while you contribute nothing but negativity. At least when I play a grump, I'm getting paid to pretend. That was the tipping point. The other hosts finally jumped in, fumbling for damage control. But it was too late. The damage had been done, live and in real time. Joy wasn't finished. Not yet. You think you're better than everyone else, don't you? She shot back. You think just because you were in a few hit movies, you get to look down on the rest of us. Well, guess what, Mr. Ford? Your best days are behind you, and everyone knows it. The studio fell into a vacuum of silence. Ford's hands clenched at his sides. For a split second, it looked like he might actually lose control. Producers stared helplessly. The publicist gestured frantically off-screen. Viewers at home, they were watching television history unfold. Ford turned back toward Joy. His eyes narrowed. The look, that icy, focused glare, was one fans knew from the big screen, but this time it wasn't part of a performance. "My best days are behind me," he said, barely above a whisper. The words landed heavier than any shout. And then he took a step forward. "You want to talk about best days, Joy? Let's talk about yours." Joy sneered. "Let's talk about your career, Harrison. When exactly were your glory days? Back when you were bombing on stage doing stand-up that no one laughed at? Or was it when you clung to relevance by attacking people who actually built something?" Ford didn't blink. Joy's mouth hung open. This wasn't the retreat she expected. She thought he'd walk, not fight back. "How dare you?" she stammered, her voice cracking. "You don't know anything about my career. My life." Ford stepped forward, towering over the table like a judge delivering sentence. "I know enough." His voice was cold, cutting. "I know you built whatever platform you have by tearing others down. I know you hide behind this panel of women like a human shield, spitting cruelty under the cover of feminism. And I know, deep down, you're miserable, because happy people don't spend their lives trying to make others feel small." The other hosts shrank in their seats. Whoopi tried to crack a joke, but it died in her throat when both Ford and Joy snapped their eyes to her at once. Joy's voice shook. "You think you can psychoanalyze me. You don't know the first thing about who I am, you arrogant." "Has been." Ford cut in with a mirthless laugh. "Joy, I made more money last year than you'll see in your lifetime. My movies are still playing around the world while you sit here gossiping to fill the empty hours of housewives' mornings. If I'm a has-been, what does that make you?" "A never was." The audience gasped. Hands covered mouths, heads shook in disbelief. This wasn't just a feud. This was destruction, live. Joy's face flushed crimson. "You think money means everything," she snapped. "You think a couple of lucky breaks make you a god." Ford's voice rose, not yelling, but powerful enough to freeze the air. "Lucky. I spent years hauling lumber, doing construction, begging for bit parts in trash films. I earned every role I've had. You want to talk about luck? Let's talk about the luck of getting handed a national talk show gig despite having 0 qualifications. Unless you count your talent for cruelty." Producers flailed from behind the glass, motioning for a commercial break. Too late, Joy leaned in, teeth clenched. "At least I don't phone in my performances. At least I show up and actually try instead of mumbling through another tired action role for a paycheck." Ford stepped closer. His hands trembled slightly, not with fear, but fury barely held back. "You want to see phoning it in? Look around you? This circus you call a show, where you sit around talking about other people's lives because yours isn't worth airing. You call that interesting. This is the most pathetic excuse for television, and you're the reason why." Joy stood, finally meeting him eye to eye. It felt like a gunfight. 2 Western legends facing off across a table instead of a dusty street. "Get out!" she hissed. "Get out of my studio." "Now?" Ford's laugh was slow and surgical. "Your studio. This isn't your studio, Joy. It's a rented set where they film your little gossip hour. You don't own anything here, except that chair you've been warming for decades. You haven't contributed a damn thing to society, except maybe more shame and less self-esteem." The camera crew knew they were capturing the most brutal moment in daytime history. 2 icons burning each other to ash. And then, Joy leaned in, eyes narrowed. "You know what your problem is, Harrison." Joy's voice was climbing, sharp, frantic, almost shrill. "You just can't handle the truth, can you? That someone finally had the guts to say it your career was never that special. You're not some hero. You're just another aging actor clinging to relevance. Nobody cares about you anymore." The words hit Harrison Ford like punches. His face drained of color. For a split second, he looked genuinely wounded, like she'd pierced something buried deep. But then, the pain twisted into something colder, more dangerous. A terrifying silence settled over the studio. Even the air felt heavier. The audience didn't breathe. The crew didn't blink. Ford wasn't just angry. He was calculating. Controlled. Lethan, when he finally spoke, it was so quiet the room had to lean in. "You want to know what nobody cares about anymore, Joy?" His voice was ice. "Nobody cares about bitter, talentless people who make a living tearing others down. Nobody cares about washed, up comedians who were never that funny to begin with. And they sure as hell don't care about your opinion of my career. Or anyone's." Joy opened her mouth to fire back, but Ford raised a hand. Somehow it froze her. "I'm not done." His voice grew steadier, gaining force. "You asked me when I last challenged myself as an actor. Let me ask you something, Joy. When was the last time you challenged yourself to be decent? When was the last time you used this platform to lift someone up instead of tearing them apart? When did you last look in the mirror and ask if you were making anything better, or just adding to the rot?" The other hosts were statues now, stunned silent, unable to interrupt what felt like a reckoning. The cameras kept rolling. They knew they were witnessing something historic. Joy's hands trembled. Whether from rage or something deeper was unclear. "You sanctimonious hypocrite," she snapped. "You think you're better than everyone else just because you were in some movies. You think that makes you some kind of moral authority." Ford blinked. "Once, slowly, moral authority." He repeated, almost amused. "Joy, I never claimed that. I'm just a man doing his job, trying to treat people with a shred of respect along the way. But apparently, that's asking too much in your world. Respect is earned," she shouted. "And you haven't earned a damn thing, except a reputation for being difficult and demanding on every set you've ever touched." Ford chuckled this time, but it was different. Warm, amused, like something had just clicked for him. "You know what? You're right. I am difficult when directors want me to phone it in. I am demanding when producers want to cut corners that hurt the work. You're damn right I care. I care because the work matters. The audience matters. And I'm not about to shortchange either of them just to make things easy." Then, for the first time in the interview, Ford turned to face the camera, directly. "And I'm difficult when people like you try to destroy what others have spent their lives building. So yes, I'm being difficult right now, and I will keep being difficult until you remember what human decency looks like." Joy was nearly shaking. "Human decency," she barked. "You're lecturing me. You just spent 10 minutes humiliating me on national television?" "I'm responding to your attacks," Ford said evenly. "There's a difference. You came at me to humiliate. I'm just refusing to let you get away with it." Then he leaned in slightly. The room went still. "And here's what really gets to me, Joy. You hide behind this idea that you're just asking tough questions. Being honest. But that's not what this is. This is cruelty, disguised as journalism. This is you hurting people because it makes you feel powerful. And the saddest part, you probably don't even realize how broken someone has to be inside to enjoy causing pain." For a fraction of a second, Joy's expression faltered, like his words had struck something buried, something raw. But then her mask snapped back on. "How dare you psychoanalyze me?" she hissed. "You don't know a damn thing about what I've lived through, or why I do what I do. You think you can sit there and judge me based on one conversation." Ford stared at her, disbelieving. "One conversation," he said softly, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Joy, this isn't just one conversation," Ford said coldly. "This is a pattern. This is who you are. Day after day, you sit in that chair and tear people down. You mock them. You poke at their vulnerabilities until they crack. And the moment someone pushes back, you play the victim." The control room descended into chaos. Producers were arguing, some shouting to cut to commercial, others frozen, unable to decide whether to end the segment or call security. No one had seen anything like this before. "You want to know what I really think?" Ford's voice was rising now, firm, clear, final. I think you're bitter. Bitter and jealous. Jealous of people who built something real, who tried to make the world a little better. While you've sat here for years, sneering, gossiping, and tearing it all down, what have you actually added to the world? Joy's face tightened, hands trembling. Jealous of you, she spat. Your declining career. Your flops. Your pathetic attempts to cling to relevance in an industry that's moved on. No, Ford said calmly. You're jealous that people remember my work. They remember the joy it brought them. The characters. The stories. You're remembered for cheap shots and cruelty. That's your legacy. For a moment, the studio fell silent. Joy opened her mouth, then closed it again. Nothing came out. Ford took a slow breath. I came here to talk about a film, something I poured myself into, something I hope gives people a few hours of wonder or escape. That's what I do. I try to add a little magic to this world. He motioned around the studio with contempt. But you grind that magic into dust. You take joy and twist it into something bitter and small, all for ratings. You think humiliating people makes good TV. Joy finally whispered. You can't talk to me like this. You can't come on my show and attack me. Your show? Ford's voice rose again. This isn't a show. This is a public execution disguised as entertainment. You don't interview people. You put them on trial. Well, I won't be your next victim. He began walking toward the edge of the stage, then stopped and turned back one last time. You know what's really sad. You probably think you won something today, that this makes for great TV. But all you did was show the world who you really are, and it's not a pretty picture. Joy leapt to her feet, pointing at his back as he walked. Don't you dare walk away from me! Don't you dare turn your back when I'm talking to you! Ford didn't stop, but his voice rang out, calm and resolute. I'm not walking away from you, Joy. I'm walking away from this toxic circus you've built. I'm walking away from a kind of television that makes the world meaner. And I'm walking away from people who think cruelty is a form of entertainment. You think you're better than us? Joy shouted. You think you're above this show, above me. Ford paused, then turned around for one final statement. You're right. You don't need me. But maybe, just maybe, you need to take a long, hard look at who you've become. And ask yourself if this is really who you want to be. Because if it is, I truly feel sorry for you. And with that, Harrison Ford walked off the set of The View, leaving behind stunned hosts, a silent audience, and one of the most jaw-dropping moments in live television history. The cameras kept rolling. Joy stood frozen, pointing at nothing, her face a storm of fury and humiliation. The other hosts fumbled to salvage the segment, but it was too late. The damage was done. And viewers across the country knew they had just witnessed a moment that would be remembered for decades. What did you think of this unbelievable confrontation between Harrison Ford and Joy Behar? Ever seen anything like it on daytime TV? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more celebrity showdowns, dramatic walk-offs, and behind-the-scenes fireworks you won't see anywhere else.